The Joe Rogan Experience.
That's actually my point. So I was sent a video. I'm going to skip tracks to a different video because I want to make a point that we live in a mediated world now, right? A mediated epistemology is what I would call it. The media itself, social media, so all of us participating are able to spin narratives around like a 30-second video. So the other day, this guy sends me a video on Twitter, and I watch it, and it's some black guy with a microphone and, you know, like in a radio studio, and he's like going, and he's like, you know, these white people ain't gonna take it no more. They ain't gonna take it. And he's like yelling. He's like, oh, they're gonna rise up, you know, and it's obvious what you're watching. You're like, man, this guy's like, these riots are out of control. And so I wanted to share it, but it was sent to me on Twitter, and I couldn't figure out how, so I looked it up on YouTube. And so I had like a 40-second clip sent to me, and I'm like, yeah, what about these riots? And I wanted to show it to somebody, and so I go and I find it on YouTube, and I watch it, and it's the same thing, 40 seconds, and it ends. But the video that I watched is several minutes. And then the next thing the guy says is, this president is divisive. This president is the problem. It's so divisive. He's causing all this division. And it's like, holy shit, he's actually talking about Trump. And then I kept watching, and he's like, President Obama has got to go at the end. And so it depends on which part of that clip you see. The story changes completely. I watched the 40 seconds, and I was like, holy shit, this is the riots. And then, oh my God, it's about Trump. And then boom, now it's this dude railing about Obama several years ago. Oh. And the video was sent to me because it was going crazy with the implication that it was about the riots. But it was about Obama.
That's crazy.
So this is like the deal, right? What we're seeing isn't always the whole story.
Right, and we live in this clip culture now, which is a real problem.
Right, and we piece together the story we believe based on, you know, our prior assumptions about it.
Like the Covington case.
Exactly.
Where that kid was just standing there, and the Native American guy came up to him with the drum.
That's right.
And he was smiling in the Native American's face, and they got a photo of it, and it really looks like this kid's a prick, and that he's taunting these Native Americans who are just peacefully banging on their drums.
That's exactly right. So we live in this situation now where I don't want to say the media like it's this entity, because actually in a sense we are all participating. These clips, you know, that people are loading up on Twitter, that whole context isn't there. And you said, you know, does it just jack everything up to a higher frequency? And absolutely it does, because everybody can take that clip and then just upload their story of what they want to have to be true into that clip. And it becomes like, it's like, we're already talking about religion. It's like a miracle. Like, you know, back in 2,000, 3,000 years ago, you know, something weird happened. And then, you know, one person tells another and another and another. And then it's like, and I swear, you know, an angel came down from the sky and touched him and he was healed and he could walk again. You know, so it's like a miracle story, but mediated through partially informative video. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, you know, everybody's scared that deep fake is coming, where they can basically put your face on whatever porn star or saying some horrible thing that you never said or whatever.
Yeah, that's definitely coming, right?
It is the precursor to that, because you can cut that clip just right, and then all of a sudden it means one thing, and if you cut it just another way, it means something exactly the opposite or totally different. And different groups that want to push a narrative, which is like everybody, latches onto it and runs with it. And this, of course, causes crazy polarization.
Yeah.
Right? So that same clip I saw, I don't know that it would be a good example, but, you know, you could take it as the riots and, you know, that black guy's sick of the riots. And so the right wing's all over it. Like, look at this guy, you know. And then, boom, this president's so divisive, and now it's the left's story, and you cut it right there, and the next thing you know, it's President Obama, you know. And all of a sudden, it switches sides again.
And it's also history.
Yeah. And then even the thing I watched that was longer was 4.5 minutes, and then the whole thing is like an hour. So what was really the guy's whole point? And so we're getting away from being able to understand, because, you know, our attention spans are so short. You live in Twitter, it's like you have the attention span of like a goldfish, man. You can't pay attention to anything. We're marinating in dopamine all the time. Brain doesn't work right. So you don't have time to like parse anything together. You see this thing, you're pissed off, you're retweet, you know, snarky comment.
Don't you think that also just the format of Twitter itself is just, I think it's detrimental to people's mental health.
Big time.
Communicating through these small little sentences and little paragraphs of 280 words.
That's right. Characters, yeah. So it's like 30 words.
Yeah.
And so I actually called Twitter a deconstruction machine, which is straight out of this, again, the same critical postmodern philosophy stuff that I kind of keep circling around. Deconstruction is the idea that it's the same thing as the mediated idea, is that we're going to take a thing apart, make it look absurd, or we're going to show it in a particular light, and then pull it apart into it till you don't really trust its validity anymore. And that's specifically its purpose, is to make it so that you don't trust the validity of the thing anymore. And so anything you put on Twitter, once you get an account of a certain size at least, anything. Like I have an account that's big enough now, so I experience this regularly. It's a 100% chance that some jackass is going to say something that just messes with your head, right? Or somebody's going to take it out of context, or they're going to tell you what they thought you mean, and now that's the thing you mean, or they're going to screenshot it and it's going to go around, and they're going to it's like, I mean, you're famous enough where it's obviously happens to you all the time, I'm sure. It's like they take something that you say either on a podcast or you put on Twitter or your shows or whatever, and they clip it up, and then there's like, who Joe Rogan is, but then there's like this new Joe Rogan that they created that's out in the universe, right? So they take you apart, they deconstruct you, the real Joe Rogan and your real intentions and your real meaning, and then they put it out into the world, and then there's this new Joe Rogan that does horrible thing, or this new Joe Rogan maybe that's a saint.
Well, I always tell people too, like if you have an issue with some of the things that I say, guess what? I have an issue with some of the things I say.
Me too.
And if you were here with me when I say things and you disagreed, I'd listen to your point. I'm not an idealist or an ideologue when it comes to ideas. When it comes to concepts, I'm not married to anything that I say.
Right. So we need to be able to talk about it, right? So you say a thing, and then I'm like...
But I think part of the problem is they can't talk about it.
No, they can't.
So they have to tweet about it. So because they're not in the room and they don't have your attention.
Right.
So then they get angry. And that's part of the problem with podcasts as well, is like right now, you and I are having a conversation, but millions of people are listening to this conversation. And there's a lot of them that wish they could chime in. And they don't get to.
That's right.
So what they do is they get angry and they put some stuff on Twitter. I understand the motivation. I understand the thought process behind it. I really do. But I personally can't engage because it's just too unhealthy.